Hi everyone, for this lesson I'll show you how to use the elimination method part 2 to solve a system of linear equations. This is also known as the linear combination method. So let's start off with this system here. Let's say we have 2x plus 5y is equal to -1 and 3x minus y is equal to 7. So looking at the system again here, the system of linear equations, I can't just add the two equations together or subtract the two equations together to get rid of either the x or the y. Here I have to multiply the second equation by 5. And the reason I want to do that is because if you look at the first equation, there's a plus 5 there, right? And we want to make this a -5. And the only way we can do that is multiply the whole thing by 5, okay? So if we do that, we'll end up with this for the second equation. 15x, right? 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times -y is -5y. And 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, so now let's bring the first equation down, right? So line it up. So we have 2x here plus 5y is equal to -1. Right? Let's separate the two. Now, if we were to add these two equations, right? Plus sign here, draw a line. This will end up being 17x. The plus 5y and -5y goes to 0y. Let's write it down, but you don't have to. And -1 plus 35 is 34. Okay, so we can actually erase this 0y, make that go away, right? And now all we have to do is divide both sides by 17. Okay, so now we have x equals to 2. Okay, so we found x. Alright, once we know what x is, we can go back to our system and pick one equation to use to plug the x equals 2 back into that equation to solve for y. Let's just pick the first equation here. It doesn't matter which one you pick. Alright, so now let's just recopy it down here. We have 2x plus 5y is equal to -1, right? The x is 2, so let's plug that in, right? Make parentheses for the x. 5y is equal to -1, and since this x is 2 right here, let's plug that in here. And now let's do it out. We'll have 4 plus 5y, and that's equal to -1. Minus 4, minus 4, so you're left with 5y is equal to -5, and divide this by 5, divide this by 5, so we have y is equal to -1. Right, so we found, use this color here, what y is. Right, so the final answer, to write it as an ordered pair, would be 2, -1. And let's circle that. Okay, and put parentheses around that, and now we're happy. Alright, I think we're ready for a challenging one. So let's take a look at this system here. We have 3x minus 2y equals 5, and 2x plus 3y, and that's equal to 12. Now, there's no easy way to get rid of the x or the y, right? We have to multiply both equations by a number to get rid of the x or the y. So let's pick one to get rid of. Let's say we want to get rid of the x. Right? So we want to make the x go away. Right? So we have to multiply the first equation. So we know that we want this to be, well, 2 and 3, we want it to be 6 and -6. So let's just make the first equation -6. So let's multiply that by -2. Right? If I multiply -2 with the 3, I'll get the negative 6, right? And that's what I want. Okay. Now, for the second one, the second equation, since we want to get rid of the x, okay, we want to make this positive 6, right? So we have to multiply, since it's a 2, we have to multiply this by a 3. Okay, so the first equation you multiply by a negative 2, and the second equation you multiply by 3. So let's rewrite the two equations after you complete the multiplication. So the first equation is now negative 6x plus 4y, right? Because you have negative 2 times a negative 2, and that becomes a positive, right? And that's equal to negative 2 times 5, that's negative 10. Okay, so that's the first equation. Now the second equation becomes the 3 times 2, which is 6x, okay? And the second, the y, we have 3 and 3y, so that's positive 9y, right? And the last thing here, 3 times 12, which is 36. Okay, so let me emphasize one more time that we have to multiply negative 2 to the first equation so that the coefficient of x will be negative 6, and we had to multiply the second equation by 3 so that the coefficient of the x of the second equation is positive 6. And the reason we want to do that is because now let's say we want to add the two equations, so plus sign right here, right? We're going to end up with 0x, and this becomes 13y, and this is positive 26, or just regular 26, right? So this reduces to just 13y is equal to 26. So y is 2, right? So we found y, and it's 2. So let's circle that. Now we're halfway there, so we can actually solve for x. So we can either pick the first equation or the second equation to use. Let's pick the second equation. So let's recopy that one more time. This is the second equation, right? This guy here. And I'm going to replace the y with 2. So let's recopy this one more time, but make parentheses for y. Okay? And I'm going to plug in the y equals 2. So let's replace the y with 2. And now let's do out the math. We have 2x plus 6, and that's equal to 12. And then minus 6 to both sides, so we'll have 2x is equal to 6, right? Minus 6 to both sides, that's what happens. And then divide both sides by 2, so x, right, big arrow here, x is going to equal 3, right? So let's circle that. So our final answer as an ordered pair will be 3, 2. Right? This is your x, this is your y, and let's circle our final answer. And now this point here is graphically it will be the point of intersection between these two equations. Okay, that's where the two lines will cross at the point 3, 2. Okay, and that's the solution to this system, and we're happy. Big smile.